Word up, everybody, it's Michael and Peter here with GoodyReader.com. Today we have the epic battle of the ages. We have iOS versus Firefox OS.
Yay! This is the ZTE. It's a very horrible phone. Don't focus too much on it. This is the first iteration of the Firefox operating system versus the oh-so-refined iOS.
In this video, we're going to demonstrate the differences between these two operating systems, looking at the pros and cons, and give you a sense on what both of these bring to the table. Let's go in for a closer look.
I just took a picture.
Obviously, iPhone here, Firefox phone here. I like the resolution on the iPhone. I mean, it's good. It's 1,000 times better than like 320 on here.
We should mention that this phone, think of this review as the operating system review. This phone, we understand it's a very outdated phone. It's a 3-inch screen, single core processor, terrible glass cover, sunken down LCD. This is just simply a vessel to showcase the Firefox OS.
Right, so in this, you know, obviously we're just looking at the OS. Yes. We're not looking at the features or anything like that. No. So we're, you know, basically these have a lot in common. You can see right away that the Firefox OS has rounded icons, and Apple has sort of rounded squares.
Yeah, they're smoothed over on the corners.
Whereas Android looks a little bit different.
Yeah, almost entirely squares, like square images.
Most operating systems have a carousel here that allow you to, you know, long press and move things here. Apple's the exact same way.
You'll notice that they both have a single button here, unlike, say, Samsung Galaxy or any sort of Android phone. You have a home button, a back button, and a more button. You actually don't find that on the ZTE, sorry, not the ZTE, on this first iteration of the Firefox OS. And you'll notice that there's a little tiny arrow boxed in its own kind of gray square. You have to touch that dead on. See, I just missed it.
Like, you can't click on the word display to do it. Whereas with Apple, they have, like, you know, the whole button here called settings, which makes it easier to interact with. And I see that as one of the big flaws so far in Firefox OS, is that to hit back, I mean, it's so small on an already small screen phone that you need either long nails or you need to be able to, like, touch it 2 or 3 times in order to do it. And no one really wants to make repeated gestures and motions. You want to be able to hit something and it work.
Absolutely. Let's press the circle button, I guess they'll call it on the Firefox OS. You'll notice that if you scroll to the left, kind of nothing happens on iPhone, but if you scroll to the left on Firefox OS, you get all these apps and categories.
It's sort of like the recommended apps, or like the best apps of the bunch. So you can click on social and you can see all the cool social apps that have it there, kind of a social cool background. Whereas with Apple, it's like you have to go to the App Store, you have to register an account with iTunes, and then you can start downloading. But here we haven't registered anything. And it's like we could just install apps on the fly and everything like that.
And let's check out the App Store now that we're talking about it here. This is the Firefox Marketplace, and this is the Apple App Store. So, of course, this is a brand new OS. It doesn't have a lot of apps. We'll have to really wait to see what kind of quantity they're going to hold on their App Store. But you see things like Facebook and Twitter, Line for communication, file explorers, messaging services, a couple games like Pac-Man, Cut the Rope, all that kind of stuff. So there's enough here to kind of enjoy yourself with. But yeah,
I mean, you have the essential apps, you know, the apps that everyone uses on like a daily basis. Right. But it doesn't have like the cool new trendy apps, just because Firefox is an OS with like a very small footprint. No one I know really installs Firefox browser apps. If anything, they'll install Chrome apps, you know. And so let's look at sort of the description here. So you can see a little bit about... It's very white. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's a lot of, I feel like, there's a term that we used in the video game industry and just art in general, is that negative space. Yes, there's a lot of negative space. Whereas Apple's effective use of screen real estate, there's really no big spaces on an Apple listing than a Firefox listing. And I find that it's just it's one of those things that irk me, is that there's just a lot of blank space. Like the photos don't even start here.
Whereas on iPhone it's full.
It's like it should start there. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, it's design flaws that are kind of like pissing me off. And there's no like banners or no featured images or anything like that.
Nothing fun on its first release, and that was the main thing here. The OS upon its first release, which is March 13th, 2014, and paired with this particular vessel, the ZTE-1, I'm not having a good time with Firefox. You know what I mean? Like, it's not engaging. It's hard to...
What are, like, these little, like...
Yeah, and the whole time there's been this scrolling kind of loading march of these tiny little dots moving around.
What is it?
I don't know. I don't know. It's been doing it the whole time. And yeah, like I was saying, like, I'm not having a good time with this because I can't touch anything because this phone is so old and unresponsive.
And depth issues too.
There's a massive depth issue. There's almost 3 millimeters between the glass digitizer here, actually probably plastic, and the actual screen. So when I'm typing on this tiny 3-inch screen, I sometimes almost think I'm going to touch the W and I end up touching Q or something because it happened earlier.
Your perspective is getting skewed.
It totally is, yeah. And I don't know, it's just, I'm not engaged in this OS because of this vessel that it's on, and it's not doing it for me. And because it's so new, there aren't a lot of features. There's almost no features. I mean, it's very bare bones.
Yeah, you're not going to find a lot of banking apps or financial apps or, you know, things like Vine or Skype and things like that. So it's young, but at least you get a sense on like what this brings to the table.
Oh,
because like Firefox OS has been, if you read tech news and read a lot of tech blogs, a lot of people are talking about, you know, Chrome OS, Firefox OS, Tizen, all these sort of new OSs that are popping up just because like Android and Apple have such a huge market share, and BlackBerry to a really less extent. But I think people are sort of starting to now look for alternatives to the mainstream OSs just to be able to gauge, like, does this have a future? Will developers be attracted to the platform? It's a good developer tool. It's like $60.
Yeah, unlocked.
You can pay for it on eBay, so it's like credit cards, PayPal. It's very cheap and cheerful. iPhone, not so much. It's a high-end consumer device.
Up to as much as $1,000 at times.
Yeah, depending on what storage option you want. But this looks slick and well refined.
Yeah.
This really looks like version 1.
Although, you know, if we get past the with lack of another word, crap phone, it has potential.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah, I think it's like any operating system. It's dependent on developer support.
Yeah.
If you don't have developers making the best apps or porting over the most popular apps right now to the platform, I don't know if it'll have any potential. I mean, that's the flaw with BlackBerry. You know, they still don't have like the major companies making apps for it. So you're kind of forcing people to have to sideload in Android apps and things to get any functionality out of it at all. And so, you know, Firefox OS hopefully doesn't suffer from the same fate as BlackBerry in the modern era. Let us know what you think. Do you think that Firefox OS has potential? How do you think about the Firefox OS versus iOS? Any thoughts, questions, concerns? Drop a comment below and let us know what you think. For GoodyReader.com, my name is Michael.
This is Peter.
Everybody take care.
Not a fan of the ZTE Open as a device, but I am a fan of Firefox OS because it has potential. As of right now, doesn't look that great, but it does have potential. It could be one of the next big OSs. It could be considered one of the big ones. So when people say, hey, you know, Android, iOS, BlackBerry, Firefox, could be kind of the norm in a little while. They just need some refinement, but everything's there for them to kind of take off. They just have to go in the right direction. Keep watching our YouTube channel at youtube.com/goodyreader. If you're watching this on another channel, 850 plus videos on that channel. Lots of giveaways, fielding requests every day. Keep on watching. Thanks a lot.